What does it really take to get on Goldie Hawn's bad side? For years, a rumor has floated around online, whispered in comment sections, and splashed across clickbait headlines that America's sweetheart keeps a secret list, a burn book of stars she supposedly hated working with, naming the Hollywood elite who finally cracked her radiant smile. It's juicy gossip, promising a peek behind the curtain of an icon who has charmed Hollywood for over 6 decades. But the truth is so much more interesting. This isn't a story about petty on-set spats. It's a story of survival and defiance in an industry that was, for most of her career, a boys' club. Forget the co-stars. The real story isn't about who Goldie Hawn hated, but about the battles she had to fight to be taken seriously. We're about to reveal the powerful men Goldie clashed with, the directors and producers who underestimated her, tried to sideline her, and in some cases, tried to break her. These are the feuds that almost derailed some of her biggest films and forged her into the trailblazer she became. This isn't a story about hate. It's a story about a woman who demanded respect and the powerful men who were shocked when she got it. Before we get to the real battles that defined Goldie Hawn's career, let's clear the air about those whispers that have fueled the gossip columns. Hollywood is a pressure cooker. Egos, artistic visions, and grueling schedules collide, so it's no surprise that stories of on-set tension are as old as Tinseltown itself. And with a career as long as Goldie's, some of that friction was bound to get mislabeled as a feud. One of the most popular rumors comes from the set of the 1992 cult classic Death Becomes Her. In the film, Goldie and Meryl Streep play 2 women locked in a hilariously toxic rivalry. Their on-screen relationship is so venomous that it's almost tempting to believe some of it spilled over into real life. The centerpiece of this rumor? A now infamous on-set accident where Meryl Streep accidentally hit Goldie in the face with a prop shovel during a fight scene. The story is true. An accident did happen, and Hawn was left with a faint scar. For gossips, this was the smoking gun. But the reality was far less dramatic. The production was a special effects nightmare, requiring the actors to spend hours performing opposite green screens. Meryl Streep herself admitted she found the process creatively stifling and tedious. The shovel incident was simply an accident during a chaotic scene. There is zero credible evidence to suggest any real-life animosity between the two. They were pros doing a tough job, and the story of their hatred is pure fiction. Then there are the persistent rumors about friction with her male co-stars, from Chevy Chase to Steve Martin. These narratives paint a picture of a Goldie who was difficult, clashing with the comedic styles of her male leads. But these stories crumble under the slightest scrutiny, often based on anonymous sources and ignoring the simple fact that comedy is subjective. Creative disagreements are the norm, not the exception. The most powerful counter-argument of course is the most public relationship of her life, her 40-plus-year partnership with Kurt Russell. They met on the set of Swing Shift in 1983 and have been together ever since, a testament to her ability to forge deep, lasting bonds in an industry known for burning bridges. These whispers about co-star feuds are a distraction. They're the shiny object that draws our attention from the real story. Goldie Hawn's true adversaries weren't the actors beside her. They were the men in the executive suites and behind the camera, the men who held all the power. If the feuds weren't with co-stars, who were they with? To find the real conflicts, we have to look behind the scenes. The truth is, Goldie Hawn, the woman America knew as the giggling dancer from Laugh In, was also a shrewd and pioneering producer. In the Hollywood of the 70s and 80s, a woman with that much power was often labeled difficult. As her daughter, Kate Hudson, later said, Hawn was called complicated just for having an opinion. This brings us to her first major battle, the making of the 1980 blockbuster Private Benjamin. Today, it's a comedy classic that earned her a second Oscar nomination, but getting it to the screen was a trial by fire. By the late 70s, Goldie was a certified star, but she also had a sharp eye for stories. When writers Nancy Myers and Charles Shire pitched her the idea for Private Benjamin, about a spoiled woman who joins the army after her husband dies on their wedding night, she knew it was a hit. She didn't just want a star in it, she wanted to produce it, making her one of the few female stars of that era to helm her own projects. The project was personal. The character, Judy Benjamin, was often dismissed as a ditzy lightweight, mirroring how many in the industry saw Goldie herself. Private Benjamin was her chance to prove them all wrong. But the studio, Warner Brothers, and the film's original director didn't share her vision, leading to deep creative disagreements. The conflict became so intense that the director quit the project. This was a critical moment. The whole film could have collapsed. But Goldie wasn't just the star, she was the producer. This was her film. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. Hawn asserted her power, taking the reins and personally hiring Howard Zieff, a new director who understood the film's blend of slapstick and heart. She was no longer just the actress, taking orders. She was the boss making the critical calls to save her project. Her instincts proved spot on. Private Benjamin was a massive success, grossing nearly $70 million and cementing Goldie Hawn as a powerhouse producer. She had faced down a skeptical system and won. In an interview years later, Hawn reflected, "When a woman becomes something bigger than she is, then it becomes more difficult. Women's power for some reason is very scary." The fight over Private. Benjamin wasn't just with one director. It was with an entire system unaccustomed to a woman, especially a comedienne, wielding that kind of power. Winning the battle for Private Benjamin proved Goldie was a top-tier producer. But her next major producing effort, the 1984 drama Swing Shift, would lead to a far more bitter and public clash. This was a full-blown war over a film's final cut, pitting Hawn against Jonathan Demme, the acclaimed director who would later win an Oscar for The Silence of the Lambs. Swing Shift was meant to be a serious drama, a tribute to the the Riveters of WW. It told the story of Kay, Hawn, a woman who works in an armaments factory while her husband is overseas, exploring her friendship with a co-worker, Hazel, Christine Lottie, and a romance with a musician, Kurt Russell. But when Demme delivered his first cut, the studio balked. His version was reportedly a gritty, atmospheric ensemble piece that focused heavily on the friendship between Hawn's and Lottie's characters. Hawn, as both star and producer, felt her character's emotional journey had been lost. Her producing partner bluntly stated that Demme's version made Hawn look like this blonde extra who'd been overpaid. Gossip also swirled that Hawn's real issue was that Christine Lottie was stealing the movie with a powerful performance. Whatever the reason, Hawn exercised her contractual power. Against Demme's strenuous objections, the film was taken away from him. Reshoots were ordered to focus more on the love story and make Hawn's character more central. The entire movie was re-edited, fundamentally changing its tone and focus. Thus, result was an artistic and financial disaster. Demme completely disowned the final film, calling the experience the worst of his professional career. The movie flopped, grossing just over $6 million on a budget that had swelled to over $15 million. Critics called the final product muddled and bland. The conflict is a tragic Hollywood tale with no clear hero or villain. Was Hawn a star protecting her brand, or an egotistical producer who destroyed a director's vision? Was Demme an uncompromising artist or a director who failed to deliver a commercial film? The debate rages on, especially since a bootleg version of Demme's original cut has circulated for years, with many hailing it as a lost masterpiece. The Swing Shift saga reveals the brutal realities of Hollywood power, where the competing interests of art and commerce can lead to a creative train wreck. Clashing with a director over creative vision is one thing. But what happens when the conflict is about basic human dignity? For Goldie Hawn, that moment came in the late 1980s when her passion project, a film adaptation of the musical Chicago, brought her face-to-face with producer Harvey Weinstein. For years, Hawn had been working to bring Chicago to the big screen. The plan was for her to produce and star as the murderous vaudevillian Velma Kelly, opposite Madonna as Roxy Hart. The project was being developed by Miramax, with Weinstein at the helm, but as development dragged on, Weinstein made a change without telling her. He secretly commissioned a new script where the character of Velma Kelly was no longer a seasoned performer, but just 23 years old. Hawn was in her early 40s at the time. It was a clear and brutal message. She was being aged out of her own project. It was a classic Weinstein power play designed to sideline an artist without the courtesy of a conversation. Many would have retreated, but not Goldie Hawn. As she recounted years later, she confronted him directly. "Harvey basically undermined me and Madonna," she stated, before recalling her words to the mogul. "I said, 'Don't fuck with me, because I know just what you're doing. We've made a deal.'" She knew the role was gone. The fight wasn't about getting back in the movie. It was about principle. She demanded Weinstein honor their contract and pay her the full salary they had negotiated. Against all odds, she won. For Goldie, it was a victory that went beyond money. She later told him, "You know what the best part of you paying me is? Not the money. You restored my faith in dignity and ethics." It's a statement now loaded with chilling irony, given what the world would later learn about Weinstein. At the time, she simply saw it as a triumph. "You stand up to a bully," she reflected, "and sometimes you win," the version of Chicago. That finally came out in 2002 was a critical darling, winning the Oscar for Best Picture. Hawn held no bitterness. Her battle was never about stopping the film. It was about demanding the respect she deserved and refusing to let a powerful man erase her from her own story. So, what's the real story? The viral rumors about a secret hate list of actors are just smoke and mirrors. They paint a picture of petty drama that completely misses who Goldie Hawn truly is. The real story of her career is found in the high-stakes battles she fought behind the scenes. It's the story of a trailblazing producer who seized control of Private Benjamin against a skeptical system. It's the story of a star who fought a brutal creative war over the soul of swing shift, revealing the immense pressures that come with real power. And most profoundly, it's the story of a woman who stood up to Harvey Weinstein to demand her dignity in the face of blatant disrespect. These conflicts define her legacy far more than any role. They reveal a will of steel behind the infectious giggle. For decades, men in power labeled her difficult or complicated, a common tactic used to dismiss strong women. But what they called difficult was determination. What they called complicated was conviction. She wasn't a diva. She was a pioneer who carved out a path as a producer when very few women had the chance. In her memoir, A Lotus Grows in the Mud, Hawn writes that to gain wisdom, you first need the mud. For her, the mud of Hollywood wasn't her fellow actors. It was a treacherous, male-dominated power structure. She didn't just survive in that environment. She blossomed. The real list isn't about who she hated. It's about the battles she won. What do you think? Which of these behind-the-scenes battles surprised you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching.